and welcome to the next edition of Nights Around the Fire. I'm here with our researcher, Sue Taylor.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us today. Hey, listen, I hope you watched last week's video with Ashley on the Blue Origin flight and Jeff Bezos. Did they really send 6 women into space? Watch that and find out. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share our videos. Yeah, squash the like.
Squash that like button.
And hit the bell icon. You'll get notified when we release a new video. So, Sue, what's the topic today?
Today we are going to talk about UFOs and aliens. Right after we tell everyone about our new merch store.
Oh, go ahead. Let them know.
All right. So you are going to find the link right down there in the comments section. And we have tote bags, hats, stickers, magnets, t-shirts, so you can get some fabulous cryptid swag to rock out and support our channel.
Please do so. Thank you so much. Okay, so where do we want to start? So I know, now I want to let you all know that I was a huge UFO guy since I was like 15. And when I was in high school, right up at Canon Mac University here, I did a research term paper on UFOs. And Sue has researched and has some of those line items on our list today. But I want to first start out with what's going on with the world and research. Now, if any of you watched Close Encounters of the Third Kind, a legend in its own right, there was a gentleman that played a part. He was a French guy. And if you remember that French guy, he was in charge of the investigation of these UFOs around the world. Now, his name in the movie, I didn't look up because I really don't care. But he was modeled after a guy named Jacques Vallée. Now, Jacques Vallée is an internet pioneer, computer scientist, venture capitalist, author, ufologist, and astronomer, currently residing in San Francisco. Now, he was a big UFO guy. He researched actually with the federal government, the United States, and with the French government. Now, just to let you know, Sue, as he got into research, he started to believe less and less that these things come from distant planets. There's a whole research paper he did. I actually did a video on my channel, the Tomsic analysis, which is now the David Tomsic Show. And that's on YouTube. Please check that out. I have a link in the description box, by the way. Anyway, he believes that these things are more interdimensional, and he uses a lot of terminology that pretty much tells us that he doesn't think these things exist in the way we think they exist, like being able to the type of aliens that there are, all these alien types really are able to do basically interstellar sky hopping, going from planet to planet through wormholes. He doesn't believe that with a lot of knowledge. So we're going to start out with that because many of you would disagree, obviously. So what did you find out?
Well, first, let me ask you a question. Do you think that the aliens are real aliens, or do you just think that they're other planet billionaires?
Ooh, yeah. That's a good one.
Yeah. I thought you and Ashley would appreciate that one.
Yeah, you know, they pay their coinage to get a ride and to see the world of America, or the world as we know it here on Earth. Maybe. So I want to set the scene for those of you watching. And I want to set the scene that you turn into this podcast, or you turn on the news, whatever your favorite news channel is, local or national news, and you turn it on. And what the newscaster is reporting is that aliens have attacked New York City. Wow.
Like, you'd be really freaked out.
That would
you?
freak me out. I'd go load up my pistols and rifle.
Right. Like,
right?
You'd start, like, stockpiling. Like, it'd be like that Mel Gibson movie, Signs.
Yes. Creepy movie.
It's a good movie. That was a really good movie.
I love that movie.
Me too. So, from what you were going off of, that actually happened. Because this Martian invasion that was set, Orson Welles did back in 1938 on a radio show. And it was called War of the Worlds. And what it was, for all of you who, Dave and I are too young to know about this, my parents were too young to know about it, I think my grandparents might have listened to it. It was a news broadcast, a news bulletin that started out news as normal and then cut to a Martian invasion. And Orson Welles did not mean for it to be the giant hoax
This
that
was
it
the
became.
first podcast.
It was,
It
yeah.
was like the first real podcast of a mystery.
Yeah, radio was the 1930s, 40s podcast. That's exactly what it was. So you're listening to your Orson Welles podcast, and he gave a disclaimer at the beginning of the episode that this was not real, it was just for fun. Well, again, it's 1938. You can't just like, oh, Dave dropped a new episode this week. I'm going to start from the beginning. You turn that radio on, and wherever you turn it on, that's the part of the episode you get.
They're in the middle of the invasion.
Right. So you turn on and you miss the whole part about, hey guys, this is all just fake. You know, here's the news, blah, blah, blah. Martian invasion. You go straight to Martian invasion. So people were terrified. People were absolutely freaked out. They literally thought New York City was being attacked by aliens. And again, this wasn't the age where you could pick up your smartphone and
Right.
go, oh, okay, that's just, yeah, it's not a big deal. It's not actually happening.
Well, Orson Welles was a brilliant writer, producer, brilliant actor, and basically his voice was also fabulous. And he performed this with his players in a studio with props, as they did with hammers and props that they would use back in the 1930s. So this was done perfectly well enough to make everybody believe that there was a literal Martian invasion. Of course, this ended up being a movie later on. 2 movies. War of the Worlds in 1953, I think. I'm not sure.
I think it was 53. And was the other one that came from outer space?
The other one was the Tom Cruise remake of War of the Worlds.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I forgot about that with
Yeah.
Dakota Fanning.
Yeah,
is
Dakota
the
Fanning
girl?
was
yeah,
in there.
I remember
Yes.
that one.
Yeah, so these were big time things, but the movie, the old black and white movie, was actually really well done considering. So Sue, how did people really take this? I mean, I know there were guys shooting in the sky with guns.
People were doing exactly what you said. They were prepping their houses. They were panicking. They were waiting for these Martians to come, because even when we went to the moon in the 60s, my mom would tell the story that my grandmother was waiting for these little green men to come up and greet Neil Armstrong when he got on the moon. So that was what the people of this generation had. Now, we all might be picturing, like my little buddy here, who this is what an alien looks like, and we're going to talk tonight about why we have this idea of what aliens look like. But they were all picturing that little green man who came down from Planet X because, like you said, that's what pop culture told them. Fred Flintstone had his little green buddy that would pop up.
I almost forgot about him.
Yeah, and the Great Gazoo, I believe, was his name.
The Great Gazoo.
Yeah, I believe that was his name.
Yeah, Fred Flintstone wasn't that's a Stone Age, and he had a.
And he had but like, when was the Flintstones? Was the Flintstones the 60s or the 70s?
Flintstones was the 60s.
Okay, so it was right in the whole like moon landing. It was coming off of the decades that we're going to talk about here in a little bit. But Dave, we're going to save this for last. 1966 brought something up in Erie, Pennsylvania that they are still talking about up there.
Stay tuned to the end to hear that one.
That one, you're not going to be sad when you hear that one.
No. Okay, so what's happened since? So we know we've had, a lot of talk about aliens, really as far back as the 1900s. I think there was a supposed alien sighting in 1890 something, and I only remember that from my last podcast I did. Not a big thing, and I think it ended up being a balloon. But again, what did people do? They put 2 and 2 together and got 5. It must be from another planet. Now, pop culture has drawn on this, and we have to separate today, Sue, the reality and the science that we can find with the effects of pop culture on alien and basically alien invasions, UFOs. Maybe we can, maybe we can't do that. It's a very complex journey. Stay with us. Let's go on. What do you think, Sue?
Let's keep talking. So we all know the term UFO. Do we all know what that means?
Unidentified flying object?
Correct. Very
I
much
scored
correct.
one.
You did. You got that one. And that term came along with the term flying saucer, which was created when a pilot by the name of Kenneth Arnold saw, I think it was 9 disc-shaped objects skipping along a lake near Mount Rainier in Washington. And they weren't really like saucer-shaped, but they were close enough that the name stuck.
And of course, they're always looking for something to name something that happens.
Yeah, give something a fun name. Yeah.
It doesn't have to actually identify it exactly, but it comes up with it. So flying saucer.
Flying saucers.
So were these things real?
Depends on who you ask. I will tell you that they were real enough that the government did a whole project on them.
Oh, we're talking Project Blue Book.
Yes, we are. We are talking Project Blue Book.
Okay, so what from Kenneth Arnold, and of course with the sightings came inquiries from the government. Project Blue Book.
Yes, and there was one. So everybody around the time of World War II was really talking about UFOs, and that was partially because it was an escape from what was actually going on in the world. Like,
right.
You could go and listen to these radio broadcasts or films or whatever and go see the aliens and take your mind off of the actual fighting that was going on in the world.
Right. And I know from people that I've talked to that were in World War II, many believe that this is also a psychological thing where people, when they saw something in the sky, they thought it could be an enemy attack. It could be the Japanese attacking America. I mean, there was a lot of fear and suspicion and anxiety at that time, which added to the phenomena. I mean, it was probably perfect timing, right?
Right.
Because you had Kenneth Arnold, you had a lot of little sightings, and then you had a world war. Those of us alive today have no idea what it's like to be in that type of situation where, and back then, you don't know if the Germans were going to win, the Japanese or us, and it would change the world. Fear about it. So this kind of played in.
This definitely played in, and it gave them like another enemy to focus on. Like something else was coming. It could be the Nazis, it could be the Germans, it could be the Japanese, it could be whoever, or Martians. Yes.
Okay, so who else besides Kenneth Arnold? Now, Kenneth Arnold, did he chase these discs?
No, he just kind of saw them going along the water, and it was really the motion that they were making that really got the term going.
So they reported this, and again, I guess there was a lot of news around it.
And that's when the terms really started getting thrown around, the UFO, the flying saucer.
So people, instead of just looking down for loose change, as a friend of mine always seemed to do, they started looking upward. And they were surprised at what maybe they saw? What did they see?
So they started, there was a huge amount of UFO sightings. Remember, UFO doesn't necessarily mean it's an alien craft. It means it could be, if I throw this guy in the air and you don't know what he is, he's an unidentified flying object.
Okay, we're clear on that, right, folks?
Yeah.
It doesn't mean
an alien. So in some cases, they were seeing weather balloons, or they were seeing like some sort of government plane. Like nowadays, you might see a drone.
Right.
It might be very easy to mistake a drone for a UFO.
And there's a lot of them in the skies right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So where do we go? So we got through the 50s.
We got to go back in time first.
But we got to go back. I know where you're going.
You know where I want to
go
talk
ahead,
about.
So take us there. Take us home. So
picture it. Roswell, New Mexico, 1947. Yeah, so there is a rancher who is out in his fields doing his thing, and he finds some pieces of a craft in his field. So what he's doing, he loads them up, and he drives into Roswell, and he takes them to the police station, and he says, I found this in my field.
Yeah.
And the policeman, the sheriff, just happens to have a radio reporter in his office with him. And he says, actually, I don't think he had them there. I think he called him. He called him on the phone.
Small town.
Yeah, called him on the phone. He said, Sheriff, I need a story for the news today. And he says, well, I've got a guy here that's got a UFO in his truck. So he puts the rancher on the phone. The rancher and the news reporter talk about this, and the news reporter thought this guy was crazy. He thought it was just some lunatic wearing a tinfoil hat. Well, the next day, the government shows up. Everybody swarms on Roswell, which went on to make Roswell the UFO capital of the world,
Still
even
is.
today.
Yeah.
People go to conventions there. They go to visit. So this ended up making the national news. It went from just being a New Mexico thing to national news. Everybody wanted to talk about the Roswell incident. And the Roswell incident went on to get classified in Project Blue Book, and they got some of the Air Force majors out there, and a Major Jesse Marcel said, "It's just a weather balloon. Nothing to see here, folks. Don't worry about it. It's just a weather balloon." Okay, so it's all finished, right?
No.
No, you are right. It is not finished.
That's not the last of it.
No. 1978. The same major, Jesse Marcel, says that it was all a cover-up. He tells a reporter that this was all a cover-up, and what they actually found was some sort of material that could not possibly be made on this earth. Like, it was like metal, but it was like tinfoil, so you could like roll it and you couldn't cut it, and could do all this stuff with it that you cannot do on typical metals that come out today. So it's okay. The government speaks out about this again in 1997.
It doesn't go to sleep. It's get brought back from the dead 3 times.
Government released a 231-page document about the Roswell incident. And they again say, just a weather balloon, folks, just a weather balloon. It was not just a weather balloon, according to some of the people. Apparently there were alien bodies mixed among it, which is how we got the description of this little guy. He, with his little kind of like uniquely shaped head and his little antennas and everything, like that traditional alien that you see, came from the bodies that were supposedly found in that Roswell crash.
Okay, so Sue. Okay, so we're all adults here, I think. I'm almost an adult.
I kind of one.
Yeah. So let me ask you first of all, what do you think it was?
I think it was an alien craft. Now, one of the videos I watched in research for this podcast was very interesting because they said Roswell was not terribly far from where they were testing nuclear bombs. Mm-hmm. So they said maybe the aliens got interested in the radiation that was coming, and so they came to see what it was. And they said, well, maybe the aliens had been monitoring the war like that had been going on, and they wanted to come see what was going on with the planet, and they thought maybe there was something that they needed to do, and maybe they needed to help the humans. But there was a lightning storm, and the craft got struck and crashed and killed all the aliens that were on it. But I think the government knows more about aliens, and I think they know more about Bigfoot than they are saying.
Right.
Which could be one and the same.
I think that's true. I mean, I have to side along, the fact that to me, I went through this a lot when I was young. I followed UFOs a long time. So I'm not sure. Now, Sue says she believes it's an alien craft, and I can see why. I think it was a weather balloon. So you tell us what you think in the comments section. See who wins out on the numbers. Sue, 1 for Sue, 2 for David. 1 for Sue that it's alien, 2 for David that it's not.
So let me ask you this. If you don't think it was an alien craft at Roswell, what do you think is the most convincing evidence that aliens have visited Earth?
I don't know that there is for me.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is because, once again, as much as I think there are unidentified flying objects, and we don't know what they are, I don't know that they are actually aliens from another planet.
Okay.
I don't believe, like Jacques Vallée believed, that I think that we've allowed pop culture to get ahead of the cart, ahead of the wagon, or ahead of the horses. Personally, I'm not saying they're not something out there or someone. I'm just saying I don't believe they're aliens from another planet. The reason I don't believe Roswell was real is I think they did test a lot of new technology during that time. That was a time the U.S. government tested technology, and the weather balloons, if you look at the ones they used, were very sophisticated. They still use weather balloons, sophisticated weather balloons, to do a lot of things, and the fabrics are out of this world. Mm-hmm. Now, again, were there aliens? Maybe. word will know. If you're from the government and you want to give us a call confidentially, we'll talk to you.
Yeah.
But we'll hear anybody that has their own opinion right here on this show. We'll actually read it on our show to see what everybody else thinks. Okay, so we're kind of split on that. I will say this, so from 1947 on, that really opened Pandora's box, right?
It really did. And I will say, Dave, 77% of Americans today believe that there is alien life out there, but only 50% believe that they've actually visited Earth.
Well, that's interesting. And I know why they say that 77% people believe there's alien life out there. That's part of pop culture's lore on all this. Again, my opinion is that you look at the sky and you say, there got to be life out there. I don't know. And I'll be honest with you, I don't care. Because if it affects me here today, that's what's important. Is it affecting me? Maybe unknowingly it is affecting me. There are aliens. And if you ever watched the movie They,
I haven't seen that one.
Was it They or Them with Roddy Piper?
I don't think I've seen that one.
That's a cult classic where the only way you can see the aliens that were around were wearing these black glasses. And they infiltrated into society with the elites of that time. And of course, Roddy Piper, who was a professional wrestler, did this movie. They Live. That was the name. They Live. Watch that movie if you can find it. It's a cult classic. Many people on the fringes like me, on YouTube, used a lot of the rendering and a lot of the one-liners from that movie because it talks about conforming to a one-world type government. So that affected me thinking, well, would we know they're here? So again, if you believe they're here, maybe you have a reason you believe they're here. I haven't physically seen anything. My brother Ron, he'll say the same thing everybody else says. Well, you have to be naive to think that we are alone in this vast universe. It's the same phraseology everybody uses.
I go with that too. Yeah, that's my go-to as well.
And that scares me because, again, it's part of groupthink. But it might not be unreal. It's just that that's the reason people believe it, not because of any evidence. Sue, let's talk about evidence.
The U.S. government has an entire file on UFOs. And again, UFO doesn't mean alien. It just means something seen in the sky that cannot be explained. I
know just recently, I think it was 2 years ago, Navy pilots went on basically a few shows on network TV. Mm-hmm. And they said that they had been tailed, and the U.S. Navy off of the coast of Southern California were tailed by these unidentified flying objects. Yes. They couldn't catch up with them, but they tailed them in numbers, and they videoed them, and they radared them, and it became a national story at the time. And but then, of course, like any national story, it moves on because nothing has been reported since. So you're saying these could be aliens, or these could be something else?
Back in 1994, they came out and said that the Roswell incident was actually tied to Project Mogul, M-O-G-U-L, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly, mm-hmm. that was used to design a way to detect the Soviet bombs.
And those were weather balloons.
Yeah, and so the U.S. government agrees with you.
Yeah.
The conspiracy theorists on the internet do not agree with you.
Right. Well, I know that Project Mogul was designed to do just exactly what Sue said. They were afraid of World War III at the time. Of course, the Cold War was another high-stress time.
And you think about it, the government needed to have these research in place, because in 1948 was when they really got started on doing investigations in the government. And you think about what was going on at that time period. Well, they had to investigate, because if you saw something that they didn't know what it was, you had to make sure that it wasn't some sort of nuclear device, right, or some sort of missile being flown at the country, something to protect. It was to protect the United States.
Interesting. And back then, the technology for delivering nuclear weapons wasn't anywhere near it is today. And we all saw the movie War Games, right? We use a lot of movie references here, about how uptight everybody was about the Cold War, and at any time someone can launch missiles. Did this play into the UFO scare? And I guess I'm looking at it from the devil's advocate side today. And of course, personally, I do believe there was something in the skies. No doubt about it. I just don't know what. So, I'm kind of cautious.
It's not always aliens.
It's not always aliens.
It might be aliens. But the government started Project Signs to research these unidentified flying objects. So they had to keep documentation of it. They had to keep it somewhere. And the Project Signs gave way to the Project Blue Book, which is the really big one.
What did they ever come up with? Is there anything that ever came out of Project Blue Book?
There are, between 1952 and 1969, there are 12,000 unidentified flying object sightings.
Wow. And they investigated probably as many as they could.
Yeah, and some of them are confirmed. They identified what it was. They've put them to rest. They're fine. But some of them, like a case we're going to talk about in a little while, are still open and still undetermined as to what it actually was. Okay,
so yeah, the government definitely has more info than they're going to give us.
Right.
Now, probably for those of us who want more hard evidence, we may never exactly get all the hard evidence we need, but maybe there's a smoking gun. Is there a smoking gun? Roswell could be considered one.
There are probably people who are typing their comments right now that Roswell is the smoking gun. There were alien bodies. They saw them being removed from the site. They saw them being kept in special containment units in a government bunker. That there are people who are going to tell you that Roswell was the smoking gun.
Okay, so okay, we'll put that on the side of a smoking gun, because if any of it's true, or even part of it's true, that definitely leads to a bigger conspiracy. That's what we're talking about here, to cover up alien presence in our world. But is this what we're talking about, Sue? Alien presence, hiding the fact there's aliens? Do you think that's what it's all about? Why would the government fear people knowing there are aliens?
I think, I'll save my rant on why the government is covering up Bigfoot in the national parks for another day. But I think it's one of those things that you don't want the average human being to know about it, because you don't want to create panic. You don't want to create people, like you were saying, shooting at the skies, or, the neighbor's drone flies over their yard and they shoot it down because we're sure it's from outer space. Okay. I think it's going to create a bigger mess if we know that aliens are out there. Now,
I know we really weren't going to get into this today. There's a lot of abduction theories as well.
There are, and that's a good point. I didn't look too much into that, but we should definitely dig into that.
There is a lot, and again, I'm going to err on the side of I've read a lot about this, and Jacques Vallée talks about this as well. What a few other researchers, Harvard researchers, came up with, that it's interesting how the number of abduction claims is more than it would be worthwhile to do. I mean, if you're an alien with all the knowledge of anatomy, going through wormholes through space, and you got to study someone's butthole 400,000 times. There's something wrong with these aliens.
These aliens aren't too smart.
So what he's saying is that it relates to basically the Dark Ages and the fear of demon possession and what they found in there. It's the same type of fears. So again, pop culture could have taken, because I know there's a lot of abduction cases that are well known. We're not going to get into them, but all of a sudden, everyone that turns up was abducted, and you got to imagine how fast can you assembly line of checking. This is the question we want you to think about, because if you're a UFO fan and you believe in UFOs, that's fine, but we also want to clear out the debris that's in the way of getting to the truth. And sometimes you got to say, maybe there was a few abductions, but everybody that claims it, is that real?
But do you feel like those cases have kind of fallen off in the last few years? Like, it's not cool anymore to say you were abducted by aliens? Like,
Maybe so. I mean, this is the thing that's difficult on topics like this.
right.
We see through a glass darkly. We don't know.
Because I don't feel like the Bigfoot sightings go down. I don't feel like the UFO sightings go down and the talk about aliens, but I feel like the talk about abductions just doesn't happen the way that it used to. People were really big on being abducted by aliens.
Yeah, and like I said, the math doesn't work out, friends. If I forgot the number of abductions they claim was worldwide, and you'd have to have thousands of ships with thousands of technicians processing someone's butt thousands of times a day to do what? I mean, what would you want to know more? You know, we're not that complex when it comes down to it. And, you know, so people, if you thought you were abducted, I'm sorry, man. I'm suspicious. I'm a skeptic.
But tell us about your experience.
Yeah.
If you know someone who was abducted by aliens, tell us about your experience.
And I'm laughing because I just can imagine an alien looking. This looks the same as the last 5,000. I mean,
why did
come
they
on.
keep sending us down here to look at these things?
Because
This
I want to
doesn't
go
make any
home,
sense.
see my wife on Planet Z. I mean, you know. Anyway,
Tired of it.
this is where it can go. Remember, pop culture and the advent of movies, the advent of science fiction. We have to see through that glass to get to the truth, because that has affected what we think an alien looks like, what we think they do, what we think their goal is. It affects everything. We've already been tainted by it. So keep that in mind. And we want you to share what you know with us. But for us, and for me anyway, I always kind of am a skeptic to say, what's the end goal here? Is this provable? Does it make sense? And sometimes it doesn't. I'm sure sometimes it does. And so as much as I've always loved UFOs, I've become less of a conspiracy theorist on certain things. Sue, of course, disagrees with me and her point. I respect that. And again, it's not that I don't.
You just haven't seen your smoking gun yet.
I haven't seen my smoking gun yet. And the very fact that pop culture has now plays such a role in it, what do I have? What can I believe? Because now you have AI, deep fake AI. I mean, where does it go next? How can we see the truth?
The amazing stuff that AI creates, like I could create an AI of you being abducted by aliens.
Well, I probably was, and I don't remember.
If I am an alien, please come take me back. I'm ready. Let's go.
Okay, so you said you had some other.
I do, and I don't think that Roswell is my smoking gun. I don't know. If I had to pick a smoking gun, I think this case that I'm going to talk about next is probably my smoking gun.
Okay.
Okay, so Erie, Pennsylvania, July 31st, 1966. So a group of people from Jamestown, New York, which is right over the Pennsylvania-New York border, go to Presque Isle to have a picnic. And they got there kind of, in my opinion, they got there kind of late. They got there about 8 o'clock. And they decided that they were going to make their dinner, so they grilled hot dogs, they ate their food. It was a young couple by the name of Betty Jean Clem and her boyfriend Douglas Tibbetts. And then there was another gentleman there whose name was Gerald LaBelle. And then there was another lady there whose name was Anita Hagley, and she had her 2 daughters with her who were 2 and 6 years old.
Wow, it's a big family.
It's a big family. So the one report I read said that they wanted to go swimming and they were going to go down to the bathhouse to change their clothes. They were along Beach 6 in Presque Isle, which is the closest thing to a seashore that Pennsylvania has. This part of Pennsylvania, New York has.
Right.
It's not great, but it's not terrible either. They go up to move the car so they can go to the bathhouse, and they find out the car's stuck in the sand. So this was before cell phones, obviously, so they couldn't just call AAA, they couldn't call 911, they couldn't call park services. So the people using the next picnic table from them see their problem, and they say to them, hey, why don't we give you a ride into Erie so you can call a tow truck, get the car out.
So they're going to take just the people who needed to, not the whole family.
So most of the family stays behind. Gerald does go, and ride into Erie with these people. That leaves Betty Jean Clem, that leaves Anita and her 2 children, and that leaves Douglas Tibbetts
Okay.
with the car. So everything was fine out there. A couple of park rangers stopped by, saw the car was stuck, and said, hey, if you guys need help getting the car out, when your friend gets back, we'll stop back through, help you out. We'll call the police, get you out of here. Okay. So everything is fine till about 9:30.
This was nighttime then.
Nighttime, yeah. So, well, you think about, this was July 31st, so you think about, like, what the light's like between, like, 8 and 9:30 at night. So it was probably mostly dark, maybe a little twilight left in the sky, but mostly dark. So they're sitting in the car.
What can go wrong?
What can go wrong, Dave? I'm glad you asked.
Here we go.
Because what happened was they see a star move across the sky. And star drops down, gets dimmer, gets brighter, and then it comes down and lands in the trees not terribly far away. And they see an object, and it's kind of mushroom shaped, so it's not the typical, like, flying saucer UFO. It's got, like, a mushroom-like top and then the narrow base on it.
Okay.
And it lands in the trees, and what they see is a spotlight start going across the beach, and it's just going in a straight line along the sand.
They were searching for something.
Searching for something, and it had lights around the outside of it. Now, I couldn't find a description of just how big this was. If we're talking, like, a gigantic, like, size of a 737 thing,
right.
or if we're talking, like, the size of this desk thing, something like that.
Okay.
So it lands in the woods, and the park rangers go off into the woods to see what this thing is, because they see the light. And they're like, this is weird. We're going to go check on it. We've got these people sitting in a car here. Got to go check on it. So everything is okay for a few minutes. And then something comes out of the woods not far from where the park rangers just went in.
And the park rangers did not see it?
Park rangers did not see it. So this thing was described, pin this description, it was, in the official report, it was described as humanoid. So it had a head shape and it had arms, but you couldn't see its legs or its feet.
Okay.
So picture my friend here without his legs. So
that would be creepy.
Something like that. Something about like that.
Okay.
So it comes out and it circles the car from a distance. And then it comes up close to the car and starts scratching at the car. So the people in the car are freaking out by this point. And Betty Jean, who is sitting in the driver's seat, starts leaning on the horn. And when she starts leaning on the horn, the creature, alien, whatever the being was that was walking around the car, goes back into the trees, disappears. And the park rangers come running out. And one of the park rangers was so worked up about getting back to these people that he dropped his service pistol and didn't even bother to stop and get it. Just left it there, said, I'll get it another time. This is not the time, not the place. We got people in trouble. So they get back to the car. They explain to them, the people in the car explain to the park rangers what happened. The park rangers say, okay, we got to get the police out here. They call the police. They get the police out there. In the meantime, Gerald, who went to get the tow truck, comes back with the tow truck. And they say, we've got some problems with some people out on Beach 6. And he panics and says, oh man, those are my friends that I came out with. I got to get to them. Well, they wouldn't let him back to the car, and they wouldn't let the family back to the car. So they all had to meet up at the police station. Couldn't get back to the car till 7 o'clock the next morning. So about this time, August 1st, everybody shows up. State police, the local authorities show up. The government shows up.
Of course, the men in black?
Yep, men in black show up, and they start investigating. And they found scratches on the car that everybody who was with the car swears they were not there. I'm sure we've all used that argument with our parents when we were teenagers.
Yeah. It wasn't me.
I don't know how they got there. It was clearly the monster that came out of the UFO. And they found some very strange, like diamond-shaped indentations in the sand nearby.
which would be considered their footprints.
Yes. So they don't know. They said the thing kind of glided when they saw it. Now, there was not an official report of this creature looking like Bigfoot. But
I see where you're going with this.
you investigate some of the official documentation in Project Blue Book does not call it a Bigfoot-like creature.
Okay.
But there are people on YouTube right now who are saying that it was an ape-like creature.
So this was associated with the spacecraft.
Yes.
So what's the assumption here? That it came out of the spacecraft, that the spacecraft had one stored or held captive in it somehow, or was studying it?
It was not even necessarily that the being that came out of the spacecraft was in fact an alien being of some creature.
That looked like Bigfoot.
It's not, Bigfoot's not in the official description.
So it just had it looked big.
It was
and hairy.
big, it was
dark.
humanoid, it was dark, yeah, so it could have been a Bigfoot-like creature. And remember from the episode we did on Bigfoot that there are some people out there who believe Bigfoot's an alien. And so the government has never clarified what this one was. This is one of the ones that's still open in Project Blue Book. They say that it could have been an alien craft and an alien came out of it. Now, if you want a good laugh, there is a gentleman on YouTube that I found his video. It was apparently a news report from Erie, Pennsylvania. He claims it was his weather balloon that he ordered from the back of the Boy's Life catalog. And he's the one that created this hoax. And to that I said, no, sir. I'm sorry, sir. No, you didn't. Like, it might very well have been a weather balloon.
But it didn't have a spotlight.
Yeah. It was your weather balloon that you bought from the back of the Boy's Life magazine and glued together was not like this.
Well, okay. So yeah, this is an interesting story. I once again, back then you didn't have a way to document anything.
No.
Cell phones and such. You didn't have cameras that were digital 4K, as we mentioned last week when we were trying to find Bigfoot. Of course, this is why there's so many skeptics.
Right. Now,
because they say, you have a camera.
Why can't you get a picture of it?
You know, and as Sue mentioned, this was, of course, well before that era.
And the police did say that the girl who was in the driver's seat, Betty Jean, was so scared that you could not replicate that. So whatever it was, be it that it was somebody, be it that it was some, rogue, weather balloon, or that it, and, some sort of mutated animal or something like that, she was definitely legitimately terrified. This was not some sort of hoax that they had cooked up. Wow.
Well, friends, this is kind of the reason we get on this program is to talk about this stuff, because our tagline here is mysteries, legends, and myths. Can you tell the difference between them all? Sometimes there's a lot we don't know.
And I will tell you, the first time I heard this story was when I was in college in Erie. We would go to the planetarium and they would tell us Halloween stories.
Yeah.
So this is a very popular Halloween story in Erie, Pennsylvania.
Hey, if you like what you hear here, please like, subscribe, and share our videos. As Sue says, squash
that like button.
Hit the bell icon. You'll get notified of our next videos. By the way, for those of you that do like news, politics, economics, geopolitics, commentary, analysis, that's me. I have a channel, The David Tomsic Show. There's a link in the description box for that as well. It's an excellent program. We're a growing podcast. Please take a look at that. Okay, so Sue, where do we go from here? We're going to do more videos on UFOs. So don't think this is the end all to everything. This is a sort of like it was with Bigfoot, a warm up to the big events. There's a lot to talk about. There's a lot of people that have come out. There's a lot of sightings, a lot. And I mentioned the Navy pilot sightings. That's another thing. The History Channel had a gentleman that worked for the Department of Defense and quit because they refused to let him investigate these sightings as they needed to be investigated. He believed that this was a clear and present danger. They had a History Channel program 2 years and it was canceled. There's a lot. There's a lot, and there's connections between Bigfoot. There's connections with a lot of mysteries. But these first videos we do, we're going to set it up for you. So Sue, where do we go from here with UFOs? What do you think is the way to solve this? Do you think the government should come out and give all the information they had? They said they would do that, but never really have.
Right, because think about what they did with Roswell. They released this information, and that doesn't stop the conspiracy theorist. And I am a true crime junkie myself, and even with some of these solved cases, people come out and they say that was absolutely not it. That's all a lie. So people are going to find conspiracy theories anywhere. So
Yeah.
I think even if the government does come out and say, okay, UFOs are real, aliens are real, here's the alien autopsy body, all of this, the people on Reddit are still going to come back and say, that's not true. That
Yeah.
didn't happen.
What I found in my investigations on the David Tomsic show is that no matter how much data you have, how accurate it is, how well researched it is, and how many people that are of like mind research it and come up with that data, many people will not believe it.
No.
So I understand if you're watching this and you're a skeptic. So that's why I want to take that skeptic side, because many people are skeptics.
What would it take to get you, our viewers, to believe that there are aliens? Would you need to see one? Would you need the government to tell you that there's one? What do you guys think? Tell us in the comments section.
Yeah, please do. And I think, let me qualify this too, because ultimately I want to know if you think that these are aliens that are coming from a distant star. Personally, I think that's the least likely. That's me. If you disagree, let us know. Or if you think these are more local type aliens. Now remember, we talked about portals in our Bigfoot video. If you haven't seen the Bigfoot video with me and Sue, please go to it. We talked a little bit about portals and how things can manifest and come through from another dimension. The United States government and other governments have these huge hadron colliders. We talked about the one in Switzerland where they try to open these portals up, and they have successfully done so, to my understanding. So this could be a possibility. What do you think about that? Please, everything's on the table here.
Yeah, we're open to discussing anything. If you've got specific incidents that you want us to look into, we can talk about that. If you've been abducted, or
Yeah.
if you know somebody who's been abducted, let's talk about it. We want to know more.
Absolutely. If you truly believe that, let us know. We'll definitely look into that and listen to what you have to say. We're going to get into some, basically some podcasts off-site here. We're going to be going to some places. Kecksburg's another place, Sue, right here in southwestern Pennsylvania.
It is.
Something landed in 60, I don't remember.
64 maybe?
It might have been 64. Correct us if you're wrong. If I have a chance when I'm editing this, I'll plug that in. But it was a bell-shaped object that fell in Kecksburg. Now, it definitely was hauled away by the U.S. government, and there are still intrepid researchers that go up and talk to those people, the ones that are still around. Now, a lot of people believe it was a Nazi bell from World War II that appeared there through another dimension. This is what they said came through space, and basically out of time, because the Nazis would have launched that in the 40s or late 30s. Interesting things right here in southwestern Pennsylvania. So we're going to go to places. If you have somewhere you want us to go locally, let us know. We're going to be doing some research on the field, in the field, is that what they call it?
We are happy to do it. We are going to talk about the Flatwoods Monster, which I did not know about until I went to the Bigfoot Festival in Sutton, West Virginia last year. So we will come back and talk about the Flatwood Monster too.
Yeah, and if you have anything else you want us to touch base on here, for me, Ashley, or Sue, let us know. There's a lot of mysteries, and there's a lot of things, and we want to know what the most popular ones are. That's the ones we want to tackle. Obviously, Bigfoot, as far as legendary creatures and mythology, Bigfoot and UFOs are at the top of the list. Again, we're going to touch base on these again. Definitely, we're not going to let Bigfoot go. We're going on some hunts with the rest of the group, with a party into the woods. We'll see how that works out. If you never hear from us again, you know what happened.
That's why it was great.
We are also going to really get into some ghost stories and some crazy things that happen even in our small town. It's a lot of crazy stuff. So whatever your feelings are on ghosts, it doesn't matter. Let us know what you've heard, what you've seen, because again, things happen that are unexplainable.
Just because you've never seen it doesn't mean that they don't exist.
No, that's true. Well, I think we've covered UFOs, at least the introductory part, right?
I think so, yeah.
So let us know. As Sue goes, we're here to solve problems, maybe shed some light on things, and maybe have a little fun on the way. Okay?
That's it.
So don't forget, again, to like, subscribe, and share. We want to grow 50
subscribers.
We get to 50 subscribers. We're at 18 now. We're going to have a special podcast and basically celebrate our 50 subscribers. We're trying to grow, and we have 18 right now, right?
Right.
50.
Recommended reading this week is War of the Worlds.
Right.
War of the Worlds. H.G. Wells.
H.G. Wells. Read it. I'll put that in the description box as well for you.
As well as the link to our merch store.
Don't forget, if you like merchandise, we have it. I think you'll enjoy all that as well. Spread the word that we're here. We're going to have some fun. We're going to get some crazy things going here. And I'm not sure what Ashley has planned for us next, but I'm sure she'll have some researched material to dazzle you with as well. So, again, thank you for watching us, and we'll see you next time right here on Nights Around the Fire.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Take care.